Hello, and welcome back to Own Your Peace. I'm your host, Andie Thewison, and today I have with me Paul Gehring. He is a father, a husband, and the author of two books that really go into the depths of mental health. He has been on a journey, and I'm so excited to have him on to share his story, to share his heart. I think you're going to really walk away from this podcast with a new understanding of mental health, not only for yourself, but for the people in your life. I'm so honored to have him on. He shares his story in such a raw and real way that just reading your book, my heart was full open, and the story is going to resonate with a lot of people who have had mental health as part of their journey. So thank you for being on this show. I'm so excited to dive into this with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm excited about it.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Why mental health? Let's talk the story. What's the story?
Let's talk about it. I mean, honestly, I don't feel like I got to choose that. So I'll give you kind of a brief history. My wife and I just celebrated our 23-year wedding anniversary, and we've got four amazing kids, and we had them pretty quick. They were all pretty young. When my youngest was almost one, my wife and I got invited to go to a BYU football game with some friends. And we went and we were having a great time. And my wife started complaining that her chest was hurting, that she didn't feel good. And then she got up and left the game, and I followed her out. She just collapsed. And luckily there was a nurse that happened to be walking by, and she took over, and we got paramedics called and everything, and they rushed her to the hospital. By the time we got to the hospital, she seemed pretty good. Everything seemed okay. I remember my parents were at the game too, so I had called them. They came. We watched the rest of the game there in the room in the emergency room. We went back for some more tests a couple days later, and it turned out she had multiple holes in her heart from that she had had since birth. Her heart was enlarged. She had pulmonary hypertension, all these different things, and the doctor said she needs open heart surgery. We didn't know anything about what was going on, so we just rolled with it. And so, shortly thereafter, she had her first open heart surgery. 6 months after that one, she had to have her second open heart surgery, and a year after that one, had to have her third open heart surgery. And the third one, they put in a mechanical valve and a pacemaker. So she's been on blood thinners. That was about 14 years ago, I think, when that started. When she was 29, I think is
So,
when
so,
she had
so
that
young.
first one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were kind of dealing with all that stuff. I told people I wish I could go back to how I felt when she had to have her first open heart surgery, because I was so naive to what we were walking into. I had no clue how difficult it was going to be for me as taking care of her, taking care of our four kids, trying to work a full-time job. Every time I do what most people do, I go into survival mode and focusing on everybody else but myself. And I think everybody does that. It's instinctual. You take care of those that you love, and you worry about yourself later, even though we've all been told that analogy of being on the plane, you got to put your mask on first before you can help other people. We don't do that. We go straight to help everybody else, make sure everybody else is okay. And I did that every single time, and every time it ended up blowing up in my face at some point. I stuffed and stuffed and stuffed those feelings down, and eventually they just exploded, and not in good ways. It exploded in suicidal thoughts and panic and anxiety and depression, and to the point where I was having panic attacks almost daily. And then about 4 years ago, my wife had a massive stroke. We woke up one morning. My daughter was trying to wake her up to tell her that she didn't feel good and didn't want to go to school, and my wife wouldn't answer her. She just would get out of bed, walk down the hallway, and then come back in our room and lay down, but wouldn't say anything. And so after like the third time doing that, I was like, "Hun, what are you doing? Like, would you talk to your daughter? She's asking you a question." And she got up and walked and went out into the garage. And so I followed her in the garage, and she just had this blank stare on her face. And I said, "You either tell me what's going on right now, or we're calling 911, because I'm scared." And
Yeah.
she still didn't reply. So we called 911. They came, they took her to Timpanogos Hospital. By the time I got there, um, the doctor said life flight's already on the way to take her up to Salt Lake to St. Mark's Hospital for emergency brain surgery. She had that emergency brain surgery, and she's battled through all of it. She's a little miracle. She's here for a reason. We're gonna figure out what that reason is, but she's here for a reason. Um, the type of stroke that she had when I was sitting there in the hospital with her, she was, non-responsive for about 2 weeks. Um, and the doctors just kept saying, we won't know what permanent damage there is until she wakes up and we can see, can she talk? Can she walk? Does she know who you are? Like, and so I started researching this type of stroke, and 63% of people that have that type of stroke don't survive the first year. And so in my head, I was like, planning for the very worst. But
Yeah.
here we are. That was 4 years ago, and she's still here. She does have some permanent brain damage. It affected her speech mostly. She's been in speech therapy since the stroke, and that's improved. It's incredible to me because when she first had her stroke, all she could do was make sounds, and she would communicate by typing it on her phone, or we got her a little writing pad and she would write the messages on there. But now she talks, she drives. It's pretty crazy how far she's come. So we're just taking things a day at a time. That's the whole background. But to answer your question, the mental health struggles just happened through going through all the different trials and different challenges and focusing on her health. But then um, once she was kind of stable after each event, then eventually my mental health would explode on me. And so I did a lot of therapy, reading on different ways, different coping strategies, different methods to help me. And that's really what one of the books that I wrote. It was a therapy project from my therapist. She said, get all these thoughts out of your head, just start writing. And I started writing, and it just word vomited out. Everything came out and it felt so good. I cried. Every thought, every feeling, every emotion just came out as I started typing. And then when I got done, I thought there's got to be other people out there in the exact same situation that I'm in. If I can put this in a format where they can read it and they can read my story, then hopefully know that, because I have felt alone at times, which is crazy because I have family all around me and friends, great neighbors, everything. But depression does crazy things to you and makes you feel alone when you're not alone. And so my hope is that someone will read that story and know that they're not alone in feeling the way that they feel. And then I put in there, it's a countdown. It starts at chapter 10 and counts down to chapter 1. It's my top 10 things that I found that helped me in coping with everything that I'm going through. And it's an ongoing thing. I'm not out of the woods. It's a daily thing that I battle with and practice these different coping strategies almost daily to get through everything. Been one of the hardest things for me is I don't feel like we're done with my wife's health problems.
Yeah.
And it's kind of put me into a self-preservation mode of just waiting for the next hit to come. And I don't want to live life like that.
I think everyone here is sending you so much love for what you've been through, what your wife has been through, and the fact that she's here and starting to regain her life step by step is a miracle and a testament of true grit. What a brave woman she is to continually strive to come back to life in a way that most of us never will have to experience. In so many ways, we do. We all go through this process of death and rebirth several times throughout our life, but obviously not to the extent that your wife went through. But there is this feeling of like putting in the work to come back to life. And you've done that in your own way of being her partner and holding her hand, but also your lights were going out and having to like go through your own death and rebirth process of coming back to life, coming back to stability. And your story is so resonant in so many ways, whether you're dealing with a partner who is at the extreme situation that your wife went, or just a partner where you're not on the same page. And that can feel really lonely. Or you're just the person who feels like they have to carry it all
Yeah.
in any situation. And so I think your story puts an exclamation mark on a really important conversation of how important it is to put yourself first. And I think as humans, we are at our root, and I know a lot of people might not agree with this, but I think at our root, we're really more community centered and heart centered than we give ourselves credit for. I think we will always put someone else ahead of ourselves, especially if we're moving from an open heart.
Yeah.
Right? And it's really hard to put ourselves first.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
even though when we do, it's the thing that's best for everyone.
It is the most important, but it makes you feel selfish
Right.
by doing that. I mean, I even in talking with my therapist going through all this, she's like, you're away from your family all day, but when you get home from work, you need to take some time for yourself. Like whatever that is, find some things that you enjoy. She made me write a list actually. She was like, I want you
That's
to come
really
back
good.
next week with a list of 10 things that you enjoy doing. And so I had on there like yard work. I love mowing my lawn, reading, listening to a podcast, just laying in the sun, listening to music. I had a whole list on there. And she said, you are to do one of these things every day when you get home from work before you start dad mode. You take 15, 20 minutes and do one of these things. That I felt so guilty for being gone all day at work and then coming home to my family and being like, no, 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 don't talk to me yet. I'm not there yet. I need another 15, 20 minutes away from you. I felt so guilty. And when I told her that, um, and several people that I talked to were like, get over that. You don't need to feel guilty for taking time for yourself that makes you a better father, a better husband, a better everything by taking that time. But human nature makes you feel guilty for focusing on yourself before focusing on your spouse, your kids, whoever else.
And I think that's a lot of societal conditioning as well. It's selfish to not put others first. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to the whole air mask thing. How many times have you heard that your entire life? So many times. It's a
Hmm.
cliche for a reason, is that we're not going to be able to show up at the best of our abilities if we don't take care of ourselves first. And we will still show up, but it's going to be with a lot of resentment, a lot of bitterness, and a lot of self betrayal.
Yeah, it's funny because it took my wife, so 3 open heart surgeries, her stroke. She also had a couple seizures in there where we had to call 911 because we didn't know what was going on. 2 years ago, we went to Lake Powell and just random fluke thing. My wife's on the top deck. She's laying on a lounge chair in the sun. She goes to adjust the lounge and it didn't click in. So then when she put her weight on it, the whole thing came down and smashed her hand. And her hand got all swollen. We ended up leaving Lake Powell. We went to the local doctor there. They said nothing's broken, everything's fine, but we were pretty worried about it. She's on blood thinners and all that stuff, so we were nervous
Yeah.
about that. So we ended up leaving early and came back home. Went to her doctor here, same thing. They said, yeah, there's nothing broken, everything's fine. Finally went to another doctor one day because it started to have this open wound on it, and he was like, if you're available, I could operate on it today. Like, can you meet me at the hospital in like a couple hours? And so we went there. She ended up having to be in the hospital for 2 nights, which it wasn't anything major or crazy, but for me, it brought back like this PTSD of like that routine of waking up in the morning, going to the hospital to see her, then going to work, then going to see her on my lunch break, then going back to work, then going to see her, then going home
Yeah.
to take care of the kids. And it just started these feelings started bubbling up in my head, and I immediately texted my therapist, I need to come see you. And I went to see her and she was like, okay, what do you want to talk about? And I was like, I don't know, because I made a commitment to my wife that I would never just bottle my feelings up and explode again. So I'm making a preemptive strike to come talk to you, but I've never come and talked to you before the explosion. It's always been after. So I don't have a clue what to talk to you about. And we just kind of laughed about that. And then she got into like, okay, let's work on processing some of these thoughts and everything. But like, even that of like preemptively going and talking to somebody was so weird and felt so wrong because nothing had happened yet. But that was the commitment I made to my wife. Like, I'm not going to let it get to that point ever again. And anyways, and so that was like an example of taking care of me before everybody else. I mean, she was taken care of, but like focusing on me. Like, I know if I don't do this, I know what's going to happen. I've been down that road 5 or 6 times, I will bottle up emotions and it will explode. And it's not in a good way. So let's do it different this time.
Yeah.
And it was great, but it was weird and uncomfortable.
Right. But the awareness was there. You knew the pattern and you were interrupting the pattern before it got to that point. And that's huge. That's growth.
I was proud of myself.
You
I
should
was
be. That's
really proud of
huge.
myself because I had made a commitment to her. I'm not going to do it that way ever again. Like, because I know me, I know that I go into protector mode, and I focus on my wife and my kids and everybody else, and everything that I feel just gets bottled up. And that was one of the things that my therapist told me that I just thought was, I'm big on like visual, like I love like an analogy. And
Yeah.
so she kind of told me, like, you you go into this mode where you're taking care of everybody else, and everything you're feeling, you're just bottling it up, and you're bottling it up. And eventually that cap just pops and explodes. And she goes, what we have to work on with you is, and she had me just picture like a bottle of soda. She was like, it's all shook up. It's going to explode. You just need to work on twisting the lid just slightly. You hear just that little, and then tighten it back up, and just let a little bit out at a time. Then you don't have that explosion, but you just focus on doing little things that allow a little bit of that pressure out at a time. And then eventually there's no pressure left. And that has been, I mean, selfishly for me, writing these books has been part of that process for me. It's been massively therapeutic for me to get all those feelings out, to to put them out there in a way that I hope it finds the right people, that it can help them. But like I said, selfishly, it was for me, and it's done what it needed to do for me. And every time I get to talk to somebody about it, it's therapeutic for me. I get to sit and talk about those feelings that otherwise would just kind of be sitting there. But and I haven't definitely have worked through them, but not completely. They're still there. Like those are that's hard things that, and everybody has those things
Yeah.
that they go through, and you think you've gotten over it. I was talking to a guy the other day, and he was talking about how his grandma or grandpa that had kind of raised him had passed away like 4 or 5 years ago, and he started crying, but he was like, but I've worked through all that. And I was like, mm, I don't think you have, or you wouldn't be so emotional about it right now. And that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. Like, that stuff can take years and years and years to work through if it's something like that. But like, and that's okay.
That's okay. I think that's the conversation that I love having is it's okay not to be okay, which is the title of your children's book that you wrote about these big feelings is we need to have more spaces for conversations and opening ourselves up to be a safe place for people to talk about their feelings. Both of us are, I think, Gen X, where we grew up, where feelings were not something that we discussed.
Right.
Those were things that we all swept under the rug and nobody talked about.
Yep.
You shove them down real deep and they don't exist.
Real deep.
Real deep. Um, we put on this pretty facade for the world. We're this perfect, happy family, and there's nothing ugly behind this facade, right? And that was how I was raised. I think so many of the women and people I talk to, that's the case. Emotions were not a safe thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And I love that that's shifting. I love that there's more awareness of mental health. We have shows coming out like Shrinking and things like that, where we're really talking about mental health in a completely new way. Because I don't care how peachy and beautiful and rainbows and sunshine your life is, we all have moments.
For sure. And I am I am such an advocate for talk therapy, where um years and years ago I was not. I was like, I was kind of stuck in that stigma that still exists somewhat today. Maybe I think this applies to everybody. I think that there's a pride thing, it
Yeah,
gets
oh
in the
yeah.
way. Like, no, I don't need help. I've got this. I can figure this out. And then you're crazy, you're out of control if you need therapy. And I tell people that I talk to, like, go to therapy. Even if you think you don't need it, there is something so refreshing about going in and talking to someone, and the only version of your story that they know is the version that you tell them. And it's best to be honest and tell the honest truth of your story,
Right.
but they haven't heard what how your kids feel, how your spouse feels, how your friends feel. They hear how you feel, and the way that you tell it is the way that you feel it, and that's all they have to go off of to help you. It is uh, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a load lifted every time I go. It's just weight lifted off my shoulders.
Yeah, and it's not tainted by someone's impression of you prior, right? Because
Right.
you're walking into somebody who's never known you before, doesn't know the high functioning version of you, the facade version of you. This is one thing that I personally have worked on myself is letting go of the masks that I have worn over years and years of really truly showing up in the most vulnerable and authentic version of myself where this is who I am.
Yeah.
Like take it or leave it. And so there are people throughout my life who have known me through these different masks. And they're going to have biases of me based on those masks. But going to a therapist who hasn't seen all these masked versions of me,
Mhm.
they're going to see without those prejudices, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is really refreshing. Why wouldn't you want that for
Right.
yourself and to open yourself up to that? Because, like I said, we all have our wounds. Some of them are more visual, more known, more seen, but we all have them.
Yeah, that's why I titled that first book Scars You Can't See, because my scars from my wife's health problems, you can't see them, but they're there, and I'm working through those every day. Everybody has those. So it's kind of funny because I've made the joke that like when I first started going to therapy, so many times I would sit and talk through my feelings, and then the therapist would just be like, "So what you're saying is," and repeat it like word for word back to me. And as soon as he would do that, then I'd be like, "Oh, yep, that is what I'm saying." That's frustrating that it took you saying it back to me for me to grasp what I'm saying, but even that is like super beneficial.
Right. Because a lot of people are verbal processors, right? They just need to like verbal diarrhea it out. They need to just let it all out and to have someone there to reflect back to them what they're processing in that moment is so valuable. Whether
Yeah,
that be a therapist, whether that be a trusted community, a trusted friend, having people there who can help you see yourself and see your stuff is so helpful.
yeah, I agree.
It's and these
100%.
are yeah, we just need to have more conversations, more vulnerability, and not feel like I can't say that because I don't want to have unburden somebody with that. That's why a therapist is great because they know how to work with holding your burden,
Right.
right? A lot of times we have really good friends and we use them as therapists, and they're not necessarily trained on how to hold your stuff for you,
Right.
right? And so they take it on as their own. And that's a weird dynamic too. So
Yeah.
conversations are good and having those, but having somebody who knows how to hold it and not, like, say reflect it, not hold it. Because therapists know how to, hopefully, a good therapist doesn't knows how not to hold it.
Yeah.
Right.
Like yeah, and I remember one therapist that I went to at the end of I had been to her a couple times, and we got into some pretty intense feelings one time. And when we finished, she said, "Okay, before we're done today, I want you to close your eyes and I want you to picture in your mind a box. It can be whatever kind of box you want it to be." And I'm sure everybody, lots of people have been through this little thing, but so I picture this box, and she said, "I want you to put all these feelings that we've been talking about in that box and keep them locked up there. Push them to the back into the corner, keep them there until you come back here next week, and that's a safe place where we can open those up and we can talk about those things." And so we got done with that little exercise, and she was like, "What did your box look like? Did it have a lock on it?" I was like, "Oh, it was a metal box. It had a big padlock on it. It had chains wrapped around it. And when you told me to put it into the corner, I shoved it, and it was like I was in a warehouse, and the thing just kept sliding and sliding, getting smaller and smaller back into this far corner. And it was such a visual thing to me of how I deal with my emotions. Like when I'm told to visualize how I bury things and bottle them up, and I mean, it
They
was
are locked
locked up.
down.
Yeah, like they're not getting out. Like, and that's, I mean, great for that exercise that like I
Right.
bring those out in a safe place, but that can't be how I handle my
No.
emotions day to day. But that to me was like, oh crap. Like that's how I'm not expressing my feelings and everything that I'm going through with my wife, with my kids, with my parents. I'm just acting like, yep, everything's fine. And I like even I was thinking the other day, I know where I want to go in life, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but I know I'm going to get there. I have hopes and dreams, and every day I'm taking steps to get there. And a friend of mine was telling me, like, God is going to put people in your path to get you where you want to go. And you just have to make sure that you are recognizing these people when they come into your path and not dismissing them. And I thought about that in relation to all my wife's health problems because like I said, a lot of friends, family, people around, and I would still get asked on occasion, by friends, by family, some closer than others, um, like, "Hey, how's your wife doing?" And my kind of immediate answer is just like, "Oh, she's doing good. Thanks for asking." And I kind of dismiss it because in my mind, I don't think they really want to hear the truth of how we're doing with. And some days are great, some days are fine, but like there are days when we're dealing with something a little more difficult or I'm feeling a little less positive about our situation or whatever it might be, but I just dismiss that and be like, nope, we're good. Thanks for asking. And I thought about that, like, how many times could this road that we've been on been less bumpy if I had let people in that were asking and wanted to help, but because I am who I am, I just, no, we're good. I don't need your help. Like I got this. We're all fine. I was just like, what an idiot. Because people wouldn't ask if they didn't care.
Right.
But I just dismissed them like, well, you don't really care. You don't want to really hear what's going on, so we won't even talk about it. But they could have had something to offer me in the way of emotional support or whatever it might be had I just recognized and let them in, but I didn't. And so I am now like I have made this shift and I am on the lookout for anybody that is going to pop into my path that wants to help out and make it easier. I'm like, come on. I'm ready for you. I just want to change the whole way I'm seeing the world. I don't want to live in this like place where I'm just sitting and waiting for life to happen to me. I want to go out and get it. And it's been awesome to see the differences in putting that energy out and watching what's come back. It's been really cool.
I love that. And it's a struggle. I know it is because most of the time we do. We like say, "Oh, I'm fine," or "Things are good." Things are great. But if we're not okay in those moments, it's okay to say we're not okay. It's okay to be like, "You know what? Thank you for asking. I'm actually having a hard day today."
Yeah.
And
I mean, everybody is so guilty of that. Like I even working like last summer got a big load of gravel dropped in front of and I'm out there with a shovel and a wheelbarrow just and had neighbors come by. Hey, do you need help? No, I'm good, man. I want to shovel all this gravel by myself. I don't want any help. That's crazy. That's absolutely insane.
yeah,
Like people wouldn't ask if they weren't willing to help, but I just shut people down because I don't know. It's so dumb.
it's what's so interesting about that and the dynamic that is I'm seeing in this conversation is we are the ones who are givers. We want to give, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right. Like we're over giving on our relationships. We're showing up for everybody else in our lives at a 10. And the minute that someone offers that help back to us, why is it human nature to shut it down?
I don't know because the funny thing is, on the flip side of that, my neighbor across the street got gravel delivered to his house last summer, a couple months before me, and I saw him out there shoveling it, and I went out there and said, "Hey, do you need help?" And he was like, "No, man, I got it. I'm just about done." And I said, cool. Went and grabbed my wheelbarrow and my shovel and went and helped him finish. Like, because you're so right. I would much rather be helping someone out than receiving the help. That's my pride too. I think that's a pride thing. It makes me feel less of a man, less of a person that I'm not able to do it on my own. But that's so dumb. And
Yeah.
like, life could be so much easier if I was willing and people were willing just to accept help when it's offered.
Yeah. We need to open ourselves up to the compassion, the love, the service that we're so willing to give everybody else. We need to give that person the opportunity to give the way that we want them to receive.
100%. And do you know what's crazy? So I've been doing this little coaching thing, and the big focus has been on gratitude. And when I think of gratitude, I always think like, okay, that's me being grateful for things. But they took it a step further and they were like, it's not only you being grateful for things, that means you have to be like gracious in accepting when stuff is offered to you. That's part of gratitude.
And I think, as I'm listening to you, as I'm listening to this conversation, I think another thing that we could take a step further, because I think we naturally have a good gift for reading people. They can say they're fine, but there's this niggling, this
Mhm.
understanding that they're not,
Right.
right? We know. Even though they're saying all the right things, there's this heart pull that something's not okay. And maybe that's an opportunity for us to be like, you know what? I know they're not okay. And they say they don't need help, but I'm not going to take their word for it. I'm going to show up anyway
I love that. And
and
I think,
trust those nudges, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I think not to like bring it full circle, but back to the very beginning when we were talking about like mental health, and this still happens to this day, and I fight it all the time. But um, I battle my depression when I get invited to go do something that I
Mm.
know would be fun, and I know I would have a good time. My my instincts, I immediately start thinking of excuses not to go, and I will come up with anything, a reason not to go do this fun thing. The problem is then you don't do that thing, but then you hear about that fun thing that you missed out on, and then your depression, you spiral deeper. And it's not fun. But I had a friend 10 years ago, whatever, when I was really going through the thick of this depression and I was in therapy, and he would invite me all the time to go do things. And every time it was, oh, dude, my wife's not doing good today. Oh, the kids are sick. Oh, I gotta do. And I would make up. It was great with little kids. You could use the kids are sick excuse every single time, and it works.
Yeah.
Now
Nobody's
that
going
my
to
kids
question
are
that.
older, I can't use that anymore. But he would never quit asking. Oh, I'm gonna get emotional about it. He never quit asking me. He was always there, always asking me. And it got to the point where he said, look, you are going to come with us. We're going to go to dinner and a movie tonight at 7 o'clock, and I will pick you up. So be ready. And I think that that taught me there are people all around us struggling, and just saying, "Hey, man, are you okay?" They're not going to tell you if they're not okay.
Most times they
Most
won't.
times they're not going to say, "Oh, I'm glad you asked. I'm really struggling." Like it's not going to happen, you know. And but I think that example that my friend showed me of, I know you're struggling and I'm not letting you get out of this. Like we are going to spend some time together because I know that it will help. In his mind, like I'm sure he felt like, I'm not going to force you to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but if you do, I'm going to listen. If not, we're just going to go have fun and get away from life for a minute. And that was huge for me. And so I have tried to do that in my own life. If I feel like somebody's struggling, I try to make a point to reach out and say, hey, I want to take you to dinner. I'll pick you up at whatever time, and not give an out, because I promise if you give an out, someone struggling will take it 99% of the time.
Right.
Like, and I know that with myself. And I learned that I just always call it just my depression will come up with an excuse. Like,
Right.
without a doubt.
And that's a really good thing, I think, for people to understand when they have people in their life who they know are struggling, but they don't know how to help. And it can be as easy as just showing up,
Yeah.
not taking their surface answers and really, you know what? I know you're struggling, like, or not even saying that, but just, you know what? I'm going to bring him coffee. I thought I saw this great book at the store that just made me think of them. And just being there and consistently showing up is some of the most compassionate work that we can do. Adding on to that conversation, sometimes the strongest people in our lives who we see as the untouchables, the ones who are always reaching out to everybody else, are the ones that get forgotten the most.
Absolutely.
So if you have a strong friend, check on them too.
Yeah,
Those are
I
the
agree.
ones that don't get checked on.
100%. This thought came to me that I just thought like there are people in life that that you see and you can just they're dragging chains and anchors and weights and you can just see it. And sometimes it's because they want you to see it.
Right.
And they're vocal about it. And whatever it is, I don't care. But like you can see that they're carrying the weight of the world and it's easy to recognize those people and see them. But there are people out there carrying that exact same weight, but they keep it in a backpack and
Yeah.
they keep it zipped up, and you don't get to see what they're carrying, but they've got the exact same amount of weight or more that they're carrying every day, but they don't talk about it. They don't want you to know about it. They're embarrassed or ashamed of it. All of those people are the people that I just want to find somehow, and I want to find the ones that feel they're alone and convince them that they're not alone. Like I know how that feels to feel like you are alone when you're not. I don't believe that anybody is alone. I just don't. I
Oh.
don't I don't believe that. But I know that people feel that.
It's interesting in a time where we are through the internet, through social media, we are more connected than we've ever been in time. But at the same time, I think rates of loneliness are at their highest
Yeah.
because we have this false sense of connectivity via these online channels. But what needs to come back is community where we're gathering, we're talking, we're sharing meals, we're really connecting in person, we're getting offline and we're
Yeah.
building strong communities. I know a lot of people are moving away from religion because of the way that religion is designed, but building these communities that are not for healing, right now there's really not a place to just connect
Yeah.
without like it being focused around, a breath work or a healing circle or something like that. I would just like to have a time where it's for fun,
Yeah.
like good
Yeah.
old fashioned potlucks. Like
I agree. I know. I
not
know.
religious based. It's not anything based. It's just pure connection and community and really seeing the humanity in one another
Yeah.
and having those spaces where, you know what, I'm not okay. And it feels safe to be not okay here.
Yeah. It's interesting to say I'm not okay. What is okay and who is okay? Like I don't that in my mind that doesn't exist either because I just feel like
We're just at different levels of functionality.
yeah, like this world is a crazy hard place to live in with like just the day to day everything that pulls at you
Right.
all the time. Like, I don't know that anybody is okay. So I totally agree. I think we need to have that connection where if you are connected deeper with people, I think you can recognize when they need a hand much better than if you're not connected. I mean, I'm a horrible neighbor. I know that. If I'm out mowing the lawn and they go by, I wave to them. I'm just not good at like just seeing them outside and going over and say, "Hey, how are things going?" Like I feel like it's so dumb, but in my head I think, well, they're doing something. They don't want me to
Right.
interrupt them, so I'll let them do their thing. I'll do my thing. If they needed something, they'd come ask me. Like that's
Right.
so dumb.
You know what they say when you assume.
Oh gosh, and I am a huge one of those at
Yeah.
times.
There's so many really beautiful moments in this conversation. I think people are going to really walk away with so much. But I really wanted to kind of circle back to your book, The Scars You Can't See, and really kind of ending with, okay, no matter where you are on the spectrum, if you're holding the backpack and it's full, but you're not letting anyone see it, or if you're in full victim mode, those are both different. And there's different ways of handling things. One may be a little bit more toxic than the other, but there's no judgment here.
No, and both need attention.
Both need attention. Maybe one is taking yourself out of victim mode and being the hero in your own life and taking control of and seeing that there's other availability to you, right? We all
Mhm.
have different things thrown at us. It's really how we respond to that. But no matter where you are on the spectrum, you offer some really great tools to help people when they're in the thick of it. And I wanted you to share your top favorites on what helped you in those darkest times.
Um, the very biggest one, and I talk about it throughout the entire book, is just talking. Um, in number one thing that helped me, but I believe the number one thing that will help anybody with anything that they're dealing with is finding someone who will listen and talk to them. Just like with therapy, it lifts a weight just you being able to get that stuff out of you.
Yeah, just
It
saying it out
it
loud.
yeah, it just releases it. And I feel like there's been so many times that as I've talked with a therapist, with siblings, with my parents, with my spouse, even with my kids, that expressing those emotions, um, I have felt things that I didn't know were there, but then I also get it opens doors to have other conversations that I didn't even know needed to be had. But by being vulnerable and having some of that, starting some of those dialogues, then it opens those doorways. Slightly off topic, but just on the idea of talking, I part of this training that I'm doing is on gratitude, and we were working on expressing, have gratitude, be thankful, but then express your thankfulness. Because if you're thankful but you don't do anything with that, with those feelings, like, cool, that's good, you were thankful, but why not let the person know how thankful you are for them and what they have
Yeah.
done for you? And so um my brother and I, we've flipped a few homes together, and we do little side jobs for different people, just like handyman type stuff. We love doing that. He loves it more than I do, and but I have a good time with him every time I get with him. We have the best time doing those things together. And so I had texted him and I said, "Hey, I want you to know how much I appreciate you pushing me to do these side jobs. I know I don't always want to do it, but I sure have fun with you when we get together and do it." And he texted me back. It was like 3 hours later, and he texted back and he just said, "Yeah, thanks for doing those things with me. I love spending time with you. I don't tell you enough, but I love you." And I know that my brother loves me.
Yeah.
We just don't express it. We get together for family dinners or whatever, and when we're leaving, like, "Hey, see, man, love you," but that's not the
Yeah.
same. That's not the same, as
It's
like a
like deep
heartfelt "I love you."
appreciation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I so a couple days later, he and I were working on one of these side jobs, and I brought it up to him. I said, "That was a really nice text you sent me the other day." And he said, "Yeah, I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to you. We were sitting there, him and his wife and kids were eating dinner somewhere, and he said I pulled my phone out to respond to you, and I just started bawling." And he said, "That tells me one thing, that I don't express my love for you and other people as much as I should." And so then the next time we were together, I said, "Hey, I just want you to know how much that meant to me." Some of these conversations open doors to other conversations that
Right.
you get to have that you didn't even know could be had. But that was, I don't know if that will resonate, but that was huge for me.
It's huge. And I saw this on social media and I shared it, I reposted it, and there's Mel Robbins' let them theory and it took
Yeah.
off. But there's someone I can't remember his name, but he's like, I want to embrace the tell them theory. Tell if you see someone who put some effort into the way they look today, tell them, you look great today. I like the way you did your makeup. If you have a friend who's amazing at something and you're always in awe of them, tell them.
Yeah,
Like, we don't hear enough of that from each other.
for sure. And then what do you do when someone does tell you that?
You downplay it.
Yeah, you dismiss it like, "Oh, oh,
Like,
this I just rolled out of bed this way. I didn't even touch it today."
showered it.
Yeah, like we should we should tell them,
Tell
and
them and then accept it
we should accept it graciously with
graciously. Thank
thankfulness.
you. You know,
Yeah,
thank you for saying that. What you said meant so much to me.
yeah,
If you're getting
yeah,
good service at a restaurant, tell them,
yeah,
right? I think that is more influential and can really turn this whole thing around more than anything else when we truly move through this world with an open heart. Because I know I've battled with depression myself. And when you're in depression, you are so self centered, you don't see anyone but your own pain.
right. And
And
that's why you feel alone.
and that's why you feel alone because it's all about you. That's like actually the most selfish I've ever felt was when I was in my deepest depression. Um, but it's when we open our hearts and we start seeing everyone around us and we start moving from that open-hearted space. That's when we don't focus on depression. We don't focus on these things because we're so heart open because we can't get out of that depression if we're not truly caring and nurturing ourselves first. It
Right.
starts with that first, giving all that compassion and love and grace that we want to give, that we're so naturally guided to ourselves first. Then we go to this place of where we can tell them, we can show them, we can give on a whole nother level because it's from a place because we have that full cup.
Yeah. And I think that one of the hardest things about depression, I mean, I echo everything that you just said, that you do focus on yourself. Um, and I know that when I've been in it, that I have heard, I've read books, and I've listened to podcasts saying those things to me. And when I'm in the thick of that depression, my thoughts are, okay, but you're not going through what I'm going through. Like that
Right.
might work for somebody else, but not you have no idea
Yeah, you
what
don't
I'm
your
dealing
depression
with.
was never as bad as mine.
Yeah, yeah, like, and that is the depression. Like,
That's
as
the
though it's
depression talking.
convincing you, yes, it's convincing you that what you're going through is harder than anybody else has had to deal with. Nobody could possibly understand it. And I think that's why it's so important that, like, the call to action, absolutely, if you feel you're struggling, find someone to talk to. But more importantly, to everyone else, find the people that are struggling and get them to talk to you, because most people cannot pull themselves out of depression on their own. I just don't know that that's possible. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychiatrist, I'm not anything like that, but from my own experience, I could have never gotten out of the hole I was in without friends and family and my wife getting me in to talk to a therapist. I'm convinced I wouldn't be here right now talking to you without all of that. Like, I was that close to being done. And so I just know that, like, if you're in that deep, you don't see a way out. Like, it's
Yeah.
impossible. So you've got to have someone else that comes in and extends the hand and pulls you out
Right.
of
And
that
then
place.
you're able to heal yourself more when you start healing others,
Right.
right? That's why your books have healed you is because you're giving from a place of and with the intent to heal others. And by doing that and serving from that space, you're healing yourself.
Oh, it's been incredible. I published that first book end of December 25. That children's book. What would I love for them to fly off the shelves? Absolutely. But that is not why I did it. It's for me, and really to hopefully find a few people. Like, that would give me such a sense of purpose if it found a few people. I told my wife, I fully expect every one of my family and friends to read these books, to support me and tell me how great they are, whether they thought they were great or not. I expect to hear that from them. What would mean the world to me is someone I've never met before reaching out to me on social media or something like that and saying, "Hey, I just wanted you to know I got a copy of your book and it helped me through such a hard time. Like, I was able to relate to what you went through and help me work through what I was struggling with." Like, that would be huge for me. That
Right.
would that would be it. Like, I would that I'm done. Like, that would just be huge for me, because that
Mhm.
would get through this all this stuff with my wife. I've struggled with why.
Right.
What is why have we had to go through all this? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I had the cliche things of, you know, God only gives challenges to his warriors. So you're a
Right.
warrior type of
Nobody
thing.
wants to hear that when they're in the thick of
Yeah,
it.
you're gonna
Nobody
learn
wants to
lessons
hear.
from this. Like, okay, great. Give me a book. I'll read a book. I don't need to go through this to learn these lessons. Like
Right.
those, anyways. But so I've struggled with like, what is the purpose? And realizing that everything that we go through can, we just have to, it's our perspective, it's how we look
Right.
at it. And I
Yeah.
was looking at them through the wrong lens for a long time of like, why is this happening to us?
Yeah.
and and shifted that lens to like,
Yeah.
why not, you know, and what can I do with this that happened to turn it into something else and make it into a positive thing. I was talking to my daughter the other day because I published this children's book and like just came home one day and pulled it up on my phone and showed it to them on Amazon, and they were like, "Why do you do that? What do you didn't even tell us you were doing this?" And so we were talking about it, and she was like, "Why are you doing that stuff?" And I said, "Because I've had this realization that when I die, I don't want people to say. I mean, I do want people to say this. I don't want it to just be this. Like he was a great dad. He was a great husband. He was a great friend, and he went through a lot of stuff with his wife's health, and he battled through it all. Like what a guy.
Yeah.
I do want to hear that,
Right.
but I want to hear that, and then I also want to hear, man, he dealt with all that stuff and he still did this and this and this and this. Like it was awesome to be his friend. It was awesome to watch him fight through all that stuff. And did he have moments where he struggled? Absolutely, but he fought through it all. And then on top of fighting through all of that, he did these things too, which is crazy. Like what a guy. Like I was just like, that hit me that like I don't want it to just be we had hard times and we made it through.
Right.
Like
You didn't check the
that's not
box of
enough
like,
for me.
I eked by and I survived.
Yeah, that's not
Right.
enough for me. For a long time it felt like that was it.
Yeah.
That
That was
was
the
what I
goal.
needed to do. Then it like occurred to me that that's not enough for me. That's not gonna fill my cup. I
Right.
need
And
to get out and live.
right. And that is that heart opening to seeing something more for yourself, to seeing that even though every one of us, again, we all have our own package of spoiled goods that we have to deal with in this lifetime,
Sure.
right? Some of them are larger, some of them are a little less, but everybody has their stuff. And there's two ways that any of us can go. We can go in full victim mode, where we live in survival. We live in woe is me. We live in how dare this happen to me? The why is me. We can live in that. And that's one way to
Yeah.
go. No judgment here. Or we can take this and have it be the most pivotal moment where it now moves us to this space of, you know what? This happened, yeah, but I'm not going to let this break me. I'm going to have this be the thing that catapults me to higher,
Right.
that
And what if
moves me into thriving.
what if on your tombstone that thing that could have defined your entire life. Like I look at everything with my wife's health. That could be my life's mission, just to be her caretaker and whatever else. But what if I take that to move me to something greater, and that now becomes like subtext on my tombstone? I did all of these things. Oh yeah, and by the way, his wife also had some health problems, and he took care of her and the kids and whatever. Like that's what I want. Like I didn't realize that, but now I know that's what I want. I got other things I want to do and other things I know that I'm here for, and not discounting my wife and my kids. I will continue to take care of them and I love them
Right.
more than anything. But like, I just, I
You're
just
more
know
than
there's more.
that. There's
Yeah.
more than that. And I think that is a really powerful point, is that you get to decide what's available to you. Nobody's handing out permission slips. You're not waiting for someone to be like, you know what? You can do more. That is a
Yeah.
choice that you have to make and give yourself permission to step into that role. And I'm here for it. I'm cheering you on, and anything I could do to support you. I will link both of the books in the show notes so people can check these books out. And I'm excited to see where this journey ultimately leads for you, because you share your story in such a raw and real way that is very authentic and unique to you. And I think people are going to see themselves in these pages. And there's going to be a lot of like, oh, I can do this. I can move past this.
I hope so.
And so I'm
I
so
know
grateful.
so. I know so.
I know. There we go. I like it. I like it. And we touched on it a little bit, but he also has a children's book that says it's the courage to say it's I'm not okay. And I think regardless of your children's ages, I think this is a powerful book and a powerful conversation or opener to have with your kids because there are some times where your kids are going to have emotions they don't know how to express. And it really puts it in a really beautifully illustrated, rhyming way that makes it easy to read this book to them. But you have those conversations. Are there times where you feel like this? How does that make you feel? And really having these open dialogues with our kids. My kids are teenagers. I wish I would have had this book when they were younger, but I'm still going to read this to my teenagers.
He read both of my books, didn't say anything about the first book, but she got a hold of that children's book when I got the first copy, and she read it and immediately texted me and said, Dad, I read that book. That's awesome. And I think because it takes some of the feelings and emotions and like physical feelings, but also like emotional feelings, everything that comes with depression and anxiety. And because I feel like it's still taboo to talk about, and people are ashamed and embarrassed to talk about it, and especially kids don't know how to go to their parents and say, "Hey, I think I'm depressed," or "I think I have
Right.
anxiety." But this opened that dialogue so that a parent could say, "Hey, have you ever felt like that?" Like
It's a
all that
great
my
conversation opener for kids. I think,
that was the whole goal.
well, I think the goal was accomplished.
Thank you so much.
All right. This is a question I like to end every podcast episode with. Because my podcast title is Own Your Piece. What is your piece of the collective puzzle? What are you meant to bring to the world?
I am meant to take my experiences that I have been through with my wife's health, with depression, with anxiety, everything that my family has been through, and use those to reach other people because I feel like these things are still, although I think the world has come a long way, it's still there's still a lot of shame and embarrassment and about talking about these emotions. And I am not afraid to talk about them. I have no issue talking about everything that I've been through. And I feel like that is the advantage that I have, that if someone is struggling, I will talk to you and tell you everything that I've been through. And I hope that comes across in my book, that then it normalizes some of those feelings so people feel more comfortable talking about what they're going through. And and then the weight gets lifted and we all feel better. But I feel like that's what I have learned over the past couple of months is like quit living in this mode where you're waiting for life to happen to you and go out and make it happen. If you would have told me 6 months ago that I would have two books published and I'd be doing podcasts, I would have been like, hilarious. But here we are.
Here we are. And I'm so glad you're here because what you have to say matters and your voice matters. And I am so excited to see where you take this message because it's a message that so many people need to feel and hear. And whether you are the one who's in it or you're the one who has people in it, this is a conversation that needs to be had and understood on a deep level. And I'm so grateful for your honesty, your candidness, your rawness, and the way that you share your message. So thank you so much for being on the show. I will have all the ways to get in contact with Paul in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it. This was great.
All right. Thank you. Until next week. Much love.
Bye.